Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Shit Moms Won't Say. My guest tonight has sung on some of the most impressive stages in the world, like Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, you name it. She's probably stepped foot on it and like blown people's freaking minds. She comes from this really crazy thing called genius sperm that we're going to get into. It's one of my favorite things about her, but I also just know that she's super fun and super funny. And I'm so excited to have her here. Mezzo soprano, mom of three, Leandra Ramm. Hello.
Hi, thanks so much for that amazing introduction.
Thank
Wow.
you. Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, like everybody, it's the only thing that I write down. Like I've said it on here a couple times. People are like, "That's so nice," and I'm like, "Yeah, like just fucking wait, because the rest is going to be a disaster." The rest, I have nothing planned.
Right.
Like I literally write this nice, like tight paragraph about someone, and then I'm like, "I think they sing."
Right.
That's it, and then we'll go from there. But anyway, welcome to my show. You're sitting in California. I'm sitting in New York. So we have a little bit of a time difference, which would explain some of the light behind me, but like not really. It's 7:30 here. So we're on like after bedtime track. You're sort of like midday. Like you have kids awake right now.
Yes. So my kids are in daycare and I pick them up
Ah,
in an hour. Well, less than an hour, but my husband's gonna get them. But yeah, this is
okay.
like the end of my daytime time.
It's like the end of your alone time, of your like
Right.
sanity and like adult time until they go to bedtime.
Exactly.
Well,
Yes.
I appreciate you spending it with me.
Oh,
So
thank you.
let's jump in so that way maybe you'll have like 15 minutes after this to just sit. Cool? Okay. So let's jump into the Big Mom 3 first, and then we'll get into a couple of different topics. So first question of the Big Mom 3, did you always know you wanted to be a mom?
I think I did. I think I did. It was always kind of in the back of my mind. I
Okay.
think I came from a family of three, and then my husband also is one of three, and we have three. And I feel like subconsciously it kind of was always plugged in there a little bit. I had a great childhood, he did as well, and I think we both kind of had this same intention that we wanted to have a family. I remember we talked about it when we were dating. Um, and I think even though we come from total opposite coasts, I actually grew up in New York City on Roosevelt Island. Do you know where that is?
I do, of course.
Okay.
I'm Long Island born and raised. So
Oh,
yes,
okay. Great.
absolutely.
Great, great. So yeah, we grew up in totally different, sides of the country, but I think we had like very similar kind of family background of like a very tight-knit family growing up. So I think it was kind of always kind of ingrained that I wanted to experience the parenthood side of that,
Yeah.
of being a mother.
Cool. So you guys grew up on different coasts. How did you meet?
Great question. So I did the show Man of La Mancha out here in
Familiar.
California
Mm-hmm.
as a guest artist, and then he was a local actor in the show, and then we met. And that was in 2008. And then we only dated for like a year and we separated. We stayed friends, but we were like, I was working on cruise ships. I went back to New York City, did totally other things. And then we came back together in 2013.
So you basically had a little showmance and then you were like, all right. And then it like turned into something else.
That's
Okay.
exactly right. We
We've all
definitely
been
had
there.
romance.
We've all been there. Listen, I married my showman, so I understand. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Totally. I met my wife doing a show, so I hear you.
Yeah.
We live 2 towns over, and it's not as cool as like a guest artist spot. However, showmance is a showmance.
Yeah, that's exactly. And you know what's pretty funny about how we met? So he was playing the innkeeper's wife in Man of La Mancha, and I was playing Antonia. And we didn't actually talk that much in rehearsals. It was after rehearsals one day where I needed a ride, and he had this like red truck, and he was like, "Hey, I can give you a ride." And then it's when I got in the car, we started talking. I was like, "Oh, you're pretty cool," but it actually wasn't in the rehearsals itself. It was like outside of rehearsals.
Outside. I do have one more question before we get to the second question, the Big Mom 3, because I think this is the question that's on everyone's mind. Does anybody actually like Man of La Mancha, or do we all just sort of pretend that we understand it?
Right.
Like I've seen it so many times and I'm like, what? What does that mean?
Right.
Like,
I think some of the songs are really cool. Like Impossible Dream is just
Sure.
classic.
Beautiful.
And
Beautiful.
then
The music.
Aldonza's, yeah, and then Aldonza's song, I forget what it's called right now, but it's the music. But the story, yeah, it's.
It's iffy. It's iffy. All right. Well, I'm glad we got that out of the way. I wouldn't want us to like be sitting here thinking like you love it. I don't like, I just want to make sure everybody knows like we're both confused by it.
Right.
We're both confused. Everyone's confused. Okay. Second question of Big Mom 3. What is the shittiest or most backhanded piece of advice you've ever gotten from another mother or parent?
Yeah, I would say the worst advice is to slap or spank your child when they're not behaving.
Someone said that to you?
Yeah. Which is really surprising because we're in 2021 and the whole thing now is like timeouts, right? That's the standard thing now. Like if your child is misbehaving, have them think about it. And I love that. I support that because it's like let them have a moment to think about it. And that also teaches them to use their brains in this way of, analyzing what happened and the consequences of things. But yeah, I was at a park and my daughter, Sienna, the 4-year-old, was getting into this party that somebody else was having at this open public park. And the lady asked me to keep her away because of COVID times, if she can like keep Sienna away. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll keep her away. And then she said, if you slap her around, she'll definitely stay away. I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to do that.
What the hell?
Advice.
And that's
Yeah.
like recent advice. Like
Recent
that's
advice.
COVID time advice. Yikes.
Right.
Yikes. And I know the breakdown of your children because we caught up a little bit before we started filming, but what are the ages? Because you have 3 young kids.
Yes. So my son James is 6, then Sienna is 4, and Victoria is 2.
Wow. And you don't hit any of them. That's
No.
great. That's great news. We align. That's great. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Like a
it's
mother to
sad.
say at a park. Yikes.
It's sad that that's still something that happens. I feel bad for those children that are having that kind of like discipline because that's awful. It's not the way. I think it just installs violence is the answer, and it's not.
Yeah. Well,
And
then it's cyclical, right? Like, I mean, that's how
right,
they're going to believe
exactly.
you continue to parent. That's yikes. And like my gut response was like, was she kidding? Which sucks that like my gut response wasn't like, she shouldn't say that. But like, I can't even believe someone would say that in earnest, but like she did.
Right, right.
Yikes. Ugh. All right. Well, that's gross.
Yeah.
Third question, the Big Mom 3. What is a skill or superpower you had before becoming a mom that you think has really helped you as a mom?
Good question. I would say working with my autistic brother. So
Oh,
my brother,
great.
yeah, my brother is 29 now. His name is Logan. He has severe autism. And growing up with him, I had to learn a lot of patience because
Hmm.
like teaching him simple things like 1 plus 1 took forever. But as I was growing up as a teenager and just going over these basic things, I learned to just have patience. So now when I'm dealing with teaching like my 6-year-old sight words and like, blending words together and stuff, I'm just like, have patience. Like remember what it was like with Logan because it was almost like training for parenthood, like having him as a brother because I was working with him a lot, as he was growing up. And he actually lives a block away from me now. So I
Oh,
still
that's
get to,
great.
like, be with him and stuff. But it's different now, obviously, because he's an adult. But I think that skill of just working with a disabled person, like, gave me a great skill for parenthood.
That's an awesome answer. I actually haven't had anybody say that answer yet. And I like it's an amazing one because you learn just like my wife worked with like people with autism for a very long time. And like you're right, the level of patience is just
Right.
totally different. Like I've always
Yeah.
said to her, like, I could never do it, and like it's incredible. It's incredible. People that know how to work with people with autism and just have like a respect for that population. It's so great. So
Yeah.
cool. Awesome. All right. Well, listen, we're kind of getting like childhood adjacent. So I know who you were because I like look at different moms on Instagram because of obviously like my show. I like to find cool moms doing cool things. And I found you and I was like, oh, I love her whole vibe. She's has a beautiful voice, she's super talented. And then I like started digging around about you, right? And like it was like Anderson Cooper loves her. And I was like, what? Okay, now what does that mean? Like Anderson Cooper, he seems very nice. He loves everybody. Like, what does that mean? So I'm going to let you like explain this because all I know is that your parents, when before you were born, were unable to conceive, I guess just on their own. And they like looked into this program or experiment where like, it was like genius sperm. So you are conceived from like this genius sperm experiment and like, it sort of worked because like you're kind of a prodigy, right? Like this kind of, well, I mean, like 14 years old, like doing the damn thing. Like you obviously have a talent that like was developed from your genetics. So tell me about this, please.
Yeah. So, you know, the funny thing about this whole thing is that for me, it's so normal. Like, it's not weird because it's the only thing I've ever known.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So I like have always known this as like my normal. My parents told me, and I'm so grateful for this, when I was very, very young. So it wasn't
Okay.
a surprise later. I think it would have been very much a shock if they told me when I was like 14 or something or 15. But I knew from like when I could talk, when I was 2, 3 years old, I knew that my dad was not my like biological dad or as
Sure.
much as I could comprehend at that age. But I always just remember knowing about this whole thing. And what I know about it is that my dad, my not my biological dad, but the father that
Your
raised me,
dad. Yeah, sure.
yeah, he was not able to have kids. He was infertile. So back then, they explored all their different options, like adoption and different things that they could do. And they found this genius sperm bank because my grandmother was watching the Donahue show on television. And this little boy came on the show and was like talking about, you know, the mother was on and the boy was on and they were talking about, oh, he came from this genius sperm bank thing. So my grandmother was like, oh, that looks interesting. She called my mom and she said, hey, you should look into this, because my mom, my dad were trying to figure out what do we do. They were exploring their options. She looked into it, and it was based in, I think, San Diego or around that area. They sent her like a catalog of like all the different donors that were color coded, and my mom and dad were like going through the catalog and they tried to pick the color because they were all color coded like yellow, purple, green, whatever,
Okay.
that was closest to my dad, the one who was gonna raise me.
Sure.
um so then they basically said, okay, we want this one. And it was completely free. Like all you had to pay was like $1.99 for like
Holy
FedEx.
crap.
So they had this like, and I found this out later. Obviously, they had like this big tank that was like shipped from California to Roosevelt Island, and that's how I was conceived and born. And then my sister and brother were also from this same genius thing, but they had different donors because by the time they were
Interesting.
born, because my sister was born 4 years after me, the donor that I had already sired 10 children, and there was a limit of like 10 children per donor because they didn't want like potential problems later of like marrying your mate or something. So they capped it at 10. So when my sister was born, she had a different color, different donor. I know this all sounds crazy,
No, this
sci-fi,
is
weird stuff.
amazing.
And then my brother, he still made the cut. He was still part of the 10. So he and my sister have the same donor. So
Wow.
technically, my sister and brother are my half sister and brother.
Well, listen, we're lesbians in this house, right? I mean, so my daughter is not biologically mine. So
Right,
when you're like, oh, my father, I'm like, no, I get it. Like,
right,
there's no biological. She looks exactly like me, but whatever. Like
right.
that's incredible. Also, what is blowing my mind, as somebody who has paid so much money for sperm, is that it was free.
Right. It was free.
Does
Okay, and
this
then
thing still exist?
no, so
It's gone.
It's gone.
Okay.
But it was honestly the pioneer of this business. So now it's like a booming business, right? Now
Hmm.
you have to pay thousands of
Oh my
dollars.
God. Yeah.
And now, there's like a plethora of these types of things. But this was like the pioneer, this was like the first one of this whole kind of business. Um, but the story gets even more. There's like a part two of this story.
Okay.
That's
I'm
crazier.
ready. Let's do it.
So I did 23andMe. So
Oh, yes.
yeah,
Okay. I'm ready.
I did it in 2018. So I found out who my biological father is. I can't say because
Sure.
the family doesn't want me to say. I have to keep it confidential. But I met my another half, the half sister from the father's side. I met a half brother, and then I'm also on the other one, Ancestry.com.
Sure.
So now I'm connected to about 6 half brothers and sisters. And yeah, that I just met literally like 2 years ago. I've been connected to these random, family, I would say
Oh
now.
my God.
And like new aunts and uncles and all these things that I just found out about through, amazingly, like these DNA companies.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So we won't talk about who he is, but is it like, were you like, yeah, that checks out?
I was impressed when I found out who it was.
Wow. Okay.
I was
That's
like, oh
really
my God,
cool.
I hope I can live up to it. I was like, I
Woo.
can't live up to that. But I was like honored. Like, I was like, wow, I felt like, oh my God, I gotta like really do good.
That's crazy. Do you know what I found out on 23andMe? I
Hmm.
found out that I am more Jewish than I even knew.
Oh
That's all
God.
I found out. They were like, hey, guess what? You're 98.9% Ashkenazi Jew. And I was like, fuck, come on. Like, I thought something. I thought like maybe something cool. I was that and like part Siberian. And I was like, this is stupid. This is the worst results. Here, you're finding out your father is some like mad scientist genius because now I've like concocted who I think it is in my head. Um, and it's incorrect because it's Albert Einstein and he would have been dead.
Right.
But I mean, I got the short end of the stick. That's incredible. That is like that's really probably I think one of the coolest stories I've ever heard in my life.
Oh my God. Wow.
That's
Thank
very
you.
cool. Like
That's
I know it's
very
like the
cool.
norm to you though. Like, right? Like I know it's just nothing to you, but think about like sitting down telling that story.
Right.
That's
Well,
nuts.
the half sister was like shocked. She was like, I can't go to work the rest of the day. Like when she found out about it, she was like, okay, I'm done. Like I think she's still like processing it. Like years later, I think she's like still trying to like understand this whole thing.
Are they
Um,
all the siblings that you've met, like, do they have musical ability as well? Or is that not from that side?
Not really. More academic, I would say.
Interesting.
Um,
Cool.
yeah.
Very cool. Oh my God. Okay. Well, I want to like shift gears because I want to talk about what you actually do as a profession. Although
Okay.
I could talk about like the genius sperm all day, I will refrain, also known as Nobel Prize sperm. But anyway, um,
Right.
it's incredible. That's so, so cool. So I want to talk about you've most of your career, like you've sort of spent like opera adjacent, whether it's like musical
Right.
theater, but it's more like opera sort of stuff. So what I always associate opera with, and I've always been more like musical theater, like rock musical theater. So you and I are like opposite ends of the spectrum, right? What
Right.
I love about people in opera and that type of performance is that they're perceived as very like prim and proper individuals.
Right.
You're a mom of 3 kids. So, like, there's no time for prim and proper,
Right.
right?
Oh
So,
yeah.
like, do you feel like, and I know obviously with COVID, and I want to hear about this too, like, you haven't probably been performing in person for a while, but do you feel like there's like an on off switch from like mommy to like opera star? Like,
Oh
how do
yeah.
you
That's
do
a
it?
great question. I would say yes, for sure. Like I've actually had people tell me that I'm like a different person when I like go on the stage. Like I like put on this, persona almost. I mean, it's still me, but it's just like a different side of me. So yeah, I would say like at home, yeah, totally like mom world. And on stage, it's like I have to get into a whole mindset of extreme focus, extreme focus. Like being a mom, it's like you don't have time for anymore. Like organization went out the window, like everything
Yeah.
just went out the window. So, it's a totally different world than what it was before I was a mom, right? So when I go on stage and I have a performance, I have to just use the few minutes I have to just get into the mindset, get into the zone. It's like an athlete going to do a run. It's like you do your meditation or whatever you have to do to just like get in the zone.
Get
So
in.
I would
Yeah.
say I use that to like my pre-performance prep time is like super important to like shift over to whatever project I'm doing.
Yeah. 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 Cool. Well, so let's kind of chat about like the COVID era, because for performers, there was nothing worse, right? Like people
Right.
devote their whole lives to crafting, to their craft. I mean, I wasn't say crafting their craft, but to crafting and honing their voice and honing their skills and just making sure that they're always at the top of their game. And I know so many of my friends who are performers now, they're kind of going back. They're like, do we even remember how to do this?
Right.
Because virtual performing, which is very, it's not consumable, right? Like I think we all did a little bit and we're like, this sucks. Like, did you do any of like the virtual
I
performing?
did a lot of it.
A
Yeah.
lot of it. It
Yeah.
sucks. It sucks. It's not the same. But how did you kind of like, how did you stay on your A game to make sure you're coming back where you left off? Because
Yeah.
16 months is a long time.
Right. I stayed active. It actually helped my career a lot, to be honest with you,
Hmm.
because location didn't matter.
Oh,
So
sure.
I was able to do projects all over the world, and it didn't matter if I was in California. I didn't have to get on a plane to go do something. So it actually was it had its silver lining for me, I would
That's
say.
great.
So like I did a project with the London Philharmonic Orchestra that
Oh, is
I
that all? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
that I probably wouldn't have gotten cast in if it wasn't for COVID, because they would have just used local people. And
Yeah.
so there was some cool things that I would say came about from it for me. I worked with a lot of companies, like for example, Sing for Hope. Do you know that company? They're based in New York. They put
Yeah.
like a
Yeah. Yeah.
studio
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
around.
Yes. 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 Yes.
So yeah, I'm working with them and I'm doing like virtual concerts still, like several times a month.
Oh, that's so
And
cool.
yeah, and I probably wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for COVID, because that's how we got connected through the internet. And so for me, it actually was quite beneficial, I would say, because I branched out a lot more and I had more time too, because the daycare um, was open, except for like a few months where they weren't, like most of
Yeah.
the pandemic, they were open. So I had time to like reach out and like try to get connected with all these different companies all over. Um, so that kept me busy and motivated because I always had projects going on. The times when I didn't, like the few times that I just had like an open schedule, it didn't really work for me because I was like, okay, I got to get something planned. I have to have a deadline coming up, or I'm just going to like not practice and just do laundry all day. I needed to
Yeah.
have something to keep me going, like deadlines and stuff to keep me. So I just kind of stayed active in the whole virtual world, and I'm still doing it now. Um, so I would say for me, it actually was a good thing.
Oh, interesting. Cool. And now, so what do you have coming up now though? So like obviously we're back to performing live. What do you are you back live? Like what's going on?
I would say I'm still in like a hybrid situation.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. But I'm doing, for example, something right now with a group called Voices of Silicon Valley.
Oh,
We're
cool.
doing a recording this weekend, and it's going to be like filmed, and then there's no live audience, but like the singers are showing up live, and then they're filming it. So like hybrid things like that. I'm working with the San Francisco Symphony, but my next like live thing with them isn't until November, so quite a ways away.
Okay.
Um, and then I have things that are I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what I have. I have a virtual concert coming up in August with a company called Sparrow Live. Um, and then I'm trying to think. Oh, and I'm doing something with Opera San Jose in August. which is live, but it's also the kind of thing where it's like filmed. So,
Sure.
hybrid stuff until
Yeah.
like things really come back.
Slowly but surely.
Right.
It'll happen. It's coming back. It is.
Yes. Oh yeah,
It's
definitely.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very cool. It's cool to see it come back, and it's cool to just see people like re-become themselves, you
Yeah.
know, because like what an identity shift when you don't have the thing that you do, in
Right.
its true form. Very different.
Definitely. Definitely.
Very different. Well, listen, let's start to wrap it up. That was pretty painless. You didn't say anything that I'm gonna have to edit at all. Nothing.
Well, you're
Nothing.
easy to talk to, and I
That's
appreciate. I
very
love your
nice.
humor. I really
Oh,
love your
thank
humor.
you. Thank
You're
you. It's a
great.
defense mechanism. So truly, let's start to wrap it up. So I have two more questions.
Yeah.
The first one, so you have three kids, they're all under the age of 10, so sort of on the smaller side. Not that small, but what is something as a mom of three kids under the age of 10 that you cannot live without?
Like a product or
Whatever. I've had people be like music, and then I've had people be like my Fitbit. Like, I don't care. What would you like die without right now with having three kids under 10?
I would say outside time. Like our walks are
Sure.
really crucial. Like just getting the kids on their bikes and like going around the neighborhood. We live near a marina, so we can walk to the marina. And it's very refreshing. It's, spiritually, I would say like cleansing to like walk by the
Sure.
water and just have the kids, um, you know, ride their bikes and scooters and stuff. So outside walking time is really good for our family.
Oh,
And it's also
cool.
helps me stay, active too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exercise.
That's been like one of the best things to come out of like this whole COVID period is like walking every day because there was like nothing else to
Yeah,
do, so
definitely.
now we do. But so we took my daughter to a restaurant that was like on the water a couple weeks ago for my wife's birthday, and she loves Finding Nemo. She's 20 months, right? So it's like the
Mhm.
whole thing. So there's that whole like he's gonna touch the butt. They think a boat is a butt. So she's
Right.
screaming every boat that comes by, like this pretty nice restaurant, like but
Ah,
you're like Lily, like come on, man, like be cool. And it went on for like an hour. But
right. Oh
listen,
gosh.
marinas are great for older kids, I guess. It's great.
Right.
All right, final question. What is something you know now that you wish you knew before becoming a mom?
Mm. Something I know now that I wish I knew before. Um, that rare, crazy things can happen. Like things aren't. It's not all like beautiful and calm and wonderful and amazing. Like there's stuff that can happen. So my son just had his fourth surgery, believe it or not, for like
Wow.
a benign tumor that keeps growing back in his mouth.
Like a
And
like a molar, or like underneath, like in his gums?
yeah, in his gums, like behind his front bottom teeth,
Oh wow.
growing back. And this he just had it a couple days ago. And so I guess before we had kids, in my mind I was like, oh, I want to have six kids, right? Because I didn't realize like what it was like and how hard it is, and it's not just so easy. Like it's difficult, and this particular thing that I just mentioned, the surgeries, has been really hard emotionally, and
Sure.
just knowing that like rare crazy things can happen, and to just breathe with it, and it's not all easy. It's motherhood is hard. It's definitely hard,
Yeah.
definitely difficult, and it tests you in so many different ways. And but I would definitely say I'm stronger now than I was before I was a mother, for sure. I have much thicker skin and like warrior.
What do they say? Like tough like a mother, right? Like
Yes, for sure.
different
Yeah,
type of tough for sure.
different type
For
of stuff.
sure. I hope your son feels better soon, and I hope this is the last one.
Thank you.
Figure out why it keeps growing back. That's very frustrating and very scary. And I'm sorry he's going through that, and you're going through that because it's equally as scary for the parents. So
Thank you. I
of
really
course, of course. And so where can people find you? Where can people follow you? What's the best way to like see all the cool shit you're doing?
Oh, yeah. So, okay, I'm on all social media at Leandra Ramm, Instagram. I'm on TikTok now. And then I have like YouTube and Facebook is Leandra Ramm Music. So just add the word music. and my website, leandraramm.com. And it's 2 M's.
Very cool. By the way, I love how anybody over a certain age, myself included, when they're like, and I'm on TikTok.
Right.
Like we can't even get it out with any seriousness because you're like, I want to die saying this. I know it's important to my platform and I know that the content is okay. As soon as it comes out, though, I'm like, and I'm 35 and, you know, hashtag FYP. Like, I don't like it's awful. It's awful. So I hear you and I appreciate the giggle of TikTok because I can't get it out seriously either.
No.
It's awful.
God, that's the perfect explanation.
It's awful. Like we're both embarrassingly laughing about being on TikTok and yet we're both still on it.
Oh yeah, still on
And
it.
now I like it. Now I just sit there and swipe through it. But like with my grandma glasses, like I have to like really get in there because I can't see anything.
Right.
So we're too old for TikTok, but we'll keep doing it.
It was really hard for me to join. Like before I joined, I was like, should I do this? Can I make these videos? And I was very intimidated by these really complex videos. They're
good.
So difficult. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. And I actually had a lot of technical difficulties at first trying to figure it out. And I had the same thing where I was like, can I see? How do I click on this filter? And everyone was like, what's green screen effect? What is that? I couldn't figure it out. And then finally I got it. I was like, oh, okay. It's not that hard. But I had a lot of anxiety, like joining it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, and everyone's like super fast. Like, oh, I got it. And I was like, this is so hard. So yeah, but now it's like I'm proud of myself that I did it because I'm like, I did it. I'm in my 30s. I did it.
You did it. I'm not following you on TikTok. I will follow you on TikTok so I can see the creation.
Right.
I want to see what it is. Well, listen, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And everyone go follow her. She's doing cool stuff. Come on, please. She just knocked over her mic. Come on, go follow her. She's great. But really, thank you guys for tuning into Shit Moms Won't Say, and we will see you next week.